This family wants answers. They want to know how and why police were called to search the bedroom of a 5th grader. The family tells Project Baltimore that Baltimore County Public Schools is not cooperating, so they plan to file a lawsuit.
My name is Jason Feiler. I'm the principal at Seneca Elementary School.
So if I can just pause that.
Courtney Lancaster calls it the most unbelievable day of her life.
It's emotional.
It was June 1st, the day her son's principal called 911.
Today, during one of our meetings, our online meetings, there was a student who we could see that there were weapons in the background, possibly real weapons. It looked like a shotgun or a rifle in the background. It could be fake, but it didn't, like you can tell, like Nerf guns and things like that. It definitely did not have that look to it. We still have to follow whatever rules we would have in the building.
Shortly after this call,
hi ma'am, I'm Officer Thomas.
Police responded to Lancaster's home to search her son's bedroom for weapons.
And this is the moment where I was just in complete disbelief. This is me with the police officer entering my son's room.
That's it?
Yes, this is it.
The police body camera footage obtained by Fox 45 shows as soon as the officer enters the boy's bedroom, he immediately realizes the guns, which are hanging on pegboard, were not firearms. They were BB guns and toys.
Ma'am, I definitely apologize for bothering you. I had more than you when I was a kid.
It was surreal. When the officers responded, I couldn't even fully react until they left because I was just in such disbelief.
For 2 months, Lancaster and her attorney have been trying to get information from Baltimore County Public Schools. They want to know who took this screenshot of the BB guns that led to the 911 call, who determined the guns were a threat, why wasn't the family called first? We're told by the family and their attorney, county schools is not cooperating.
I pay tax dollars. They work for me. They work to serve a public school system that I put my trust in. And why haven't I heard from them at all? Why haven't I had an apology?
You've received no apology?
No.
You want an apology?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many things that we've not received.
Since June, Project Baltimore has also been trying to get information from county schools. All interview requests have been denied. We did receive a statement from Superintendent Dr. Darrell Williams' office. The safety of students and staff is our chief concern, whether we are meeting in classrooms or via continuity of learning.
There are definitely lessons that we've learned from what we've been through.
In July, School Board Chair Kathleen Causey said the school system, which does not have specific distance learning policies, is reviewing classroom policies to see how they can apply virtually, so similar situations in the future can be avoided. But county schools told Fox 45 the board has not yet passed any specific policies relating to remote learning.
I think what happened to my family was a total invasion of privacy.
Lancaster tells Fox 45 she plans to move forward with an invasion of privacy lawsuit against America's 24th largest school system.
I entrust the greatest possession that I have with them, and they have failed. They have failed me, and they've failed others.
Lancaster's son is no longer at Seneca Elementary. He is now in middle school, and the family hopes this will be a new beginning. And we want to hear from you. As distance learning kicks off this school year, tell us what's happening, what's working, what's not working. Is your child being left behind? Is your school doing something exceptional? Call our hotline, send me an email, go to foxbaltimore.com to follow our progress.
Victim, a 14-year-old boy. No arrests have been made.
And 1-2 being used to catch criminals in the city is the controversial surveillance plane program. For the first time tonight, we're getting an idea of how effective it has or hasn't been.
And we have team coverage tonight on the city's ongoing gun violence.
We begin with Fox 45's Riel Creighton, who spoke with some of the people in Northeast Baltimore in a neighborhood where the teen was gunned down. Riel?
Kai and Mary, one person told us in that neighborhood that the young boy's mother is, as you can imagine, grieving terribly tonight. But we were also looking for the grief that a community feels when a child is murdered. Early evening at Polk Street in Northeast Baltimore. and it feels like just another day. But look closely, you'll see the tape, a blue investigator's glove left behind, the little clues to let you know this was a crime. Before noon Friday, the site where officers say they responded to find a 14-year-old shot, pronounced dead at the hospital. Neighbors telling us it happened in front of the corner store. But here, while neighbors know, neighbors talk, no one talking on camera to us. Off camera, shaking heads, but not much more.
You're talking about an 8th or 9th grader. This is a child.
Activist Dr. Reverend Al Hathaway.
I know I'm outraged and I'm incensed that we as a community is not becoming insensitive to losing our children.
Hathaway says there's a sense of hopelessness that's killing us, where there's no vigil, no deep pain in a community where people told us the boy lived. It marks the 10th murder of a child under 18 in Baltimore, according to records kept by the Baltimore Sun. Never identified, but investigators say they recovered a handgun from the teen. Hathaway says if it's true, that also says something.
If a child is carrying a gun, it's because they are fearful. And children in Baltimore City should not be fearful.
Well, we did also reach out to the councilwoman for that district, Mary Pat Clark. Late tonight, she told us she is outraged. She told us in part the shooting and killing of young children goes beyond all understanding. She went on to say we have got to do better for ourselves, our young people, and especially our children.
The violence these women described seeing outside their front door grabbed our attention. They say it all started when one of their neighbors fell ill, and younger family members moved in to take care of them. The Baltimore Police Department says crime in the Northeast District is down, but our investigation uncovered a much different trend outside the door where these women live. To the average eye, this may look like a photocopy of an ordinary street in an ordinary neighborhood. But to these three women, their city block is a lot more than that. This neighborhood is where they raised their families and formed a friendship that has evolved into a sisterhood.
The most wonderful neighbors in the world.
But this sisterhood is scared. So to tell their story, we agreed to not show their actual neighborhood.
We know what can happen if they find out that we're calling the police.
The problems began when another neighbor fell ill. Some younger family members came to help, and these women say those folks started making trouble in the neighborhood.
You go from a quiet neighborhood where everyone knows each other, a family environment, to where now we have young men and women selling drugs on the corner. We're having shootouts. Vehicles and houses are getting vandalized.
Those crimes, the ladies say, became more threatening when friends of those younger family members started to appear on the block.
They call them young people. I'm going to call them walking psychopaths, because they do not care about life. They will take your life as quickly as they'll look at you.
When we turned to the Baltimore Police Department for answers, they provided crime statistics that appeared to contradict what the women described. According to the BPD, almost all of the crime categories are down in the Northeast District, with Part 1 crime down 20%. The conflicting narratives led us to take a closer look at 911 police calls. We analyzed more than 430,150 calls. As we drilled down into the city's data, we quickly found crime complaints and Part 1 crime had actually increased where the women live. We found calls for serious offenses have more than doubled over last year, and we still have 4 months left in 2020. Calls reporting drug dealing 6 times higher than last year. Calls for a firearm discharging have also jumped, and someone's been shot.
If you allow city politicians and city leaders to hide behind the cherry-picked statistics, we will never get a good sense of what's actually happening in these neighborhoods.
Former federal prosecutor Dhruv Vignarajah says the #1 job of the government is to keep people safe.
And when I say government, I mean the state's attorney, I mean the police department, I mean City Hall. There's been a complete lack of urgency and transparency around what's happening in these neighborhoods.
Crime spilling into the same street these women once walked and felt safe.
I went and served and fought in combat. I should not have to come home to do the same thing. We should not have to live as if we are in a combat zone. We should not live in fear.
But they do live in fear. It's why they ask we not show their faces or neighborhood and even alter their voices.
For a person that wants to know why I don't want to say who I am, it's because I don't want my son to have to bury me. And I feel very fearful that that could happen. We were laughing at each other, and one of them came down the street and says, "Who you laughing at? I'll go get a gun and shoot all of y'all." And we didn't know what to think. We wasn't even talking to him, but this is just how crazy, they have gotten.
Studies have shown geographically crime is rarely spread out. One study found half of all crime complaints or incidents of gun violence concentrated on a certain street or city block.
They feel as though your property is their property. They can come in they can sit on your lawn, they can stand in front of your door, they can put stuff under your car, your vehicles, your truck.
The women say those younger family members who are caring for their neighbor who fell ill, and the friends who've migrated to the block, routinely stash guns and drugs under their car to keep police from pinning the items on those who actually own them.
And no one is doing enough to get rid of this violence in our neighborhood.
Police say over the past 3 years, they've been called to the house in question 8 times. 3 calls were made within minutes of each other on the same day. A single home that neighbors say may have attracted enough trouble to threaten not only their sisterhood, but the safety of an entire neighborhood. Now that the police department tracks how often officers are engaging the community and are on foot patrol, we were able to take that data and determine that they have been in the neighborhood where these women live at least 13 times this year, engaging the community. They've been on foot patrol at least 10 times. It's also worth noting that we did reach out to Councilman Bill Henry's office regarding these women's concerns. They suggested we contact the Baltimore Police Department. Now, if there's a public safety concern or public corruption case you'd like us to investigate, we want to hear about it. You can call us at 410-662-1456, or you can send us an email to crimeandjustice@foxbaltimore.com. I'm Joy LaPola, and this is Operation Crime and Justice.